The Perennial Blueprint. 10. Crops to survive a decade of chaos. Introduction. The fatal flaw of the modern garden. If you enjoy this content, subscribe for more and hit the like button if you found this helpful. When the collapse stretches beyond a single season, when it's not just a bad year, but a decade of systemic instability, the only people still eating are the ones who stopped thinking like hobbyists and started thinking like engineers. Most survivalists are stuck in a dangerous cycle. They spend their wealth on heirloom seeds, bags of synthetic fertilizer, and gas-powered tillers. They plan for a victory garden filled with tomatoes, peppers, and beans. But there is a fatal flaw in that plan. Annuals are fragile. Annual crops require you to interfere with nature every single spring. They demand constant tilling, precise irrigation, and a steady supply of fresh seeds and external inputs. If you can't get fuel for your tiller, or if the seed company stops shipping, your food security vanishes in exactly one growing season. Annual gardening is a weekend hobby. Perennials are survival infrastructure. Perennials are the crops that come back year after year. They develop deep, resilient root systems that reach nutrients annuals can't touch. They require almost zero maintenance once established. They keep producing food even when you have no fertilizer, no pesticides, and no supply chain. You plant them once, and they feed you for 20, 30, or even 50 years. If you're watching this, you already know the world is shifting. You know that the just-in-time delivery system is a house of cards. By the time the average person realizes that their backyard garden can't sustain them under long-term stress, it will be too late. But you? You'll already have a functioning food forest producing calories while the rest of the world is desperately searching for seeds that don't exist anymore. These 10 perennial crops work in growing zones 3 through 7, covering most of North America, Europe, and beyond. They were chosen for 3 reasons. They survive total neglect, they provide serious caloric or nutritional density, and they regenerate themselves without you lifting a finger. Number 10. Siberian Pea Shrub, Caragana arborescens. The nitrogen-fixing survival hedge. In a long-term collapse, soil fertility becomes your primary limiting factor. Without store-bought bags of 10-10-10 fertilizer, your soil will eventually deplete. That is why the Siberian pea shrub is essential. Most people have never heard of Caragana arborescens, but in the harshest climates on Earth, Siberia, Mongolia, northern Canada, this shrub is a legend. It is not a decorative plant, it is a functional powerhouse. It is a nitrogen-fixing legume, meaning it breathes in nitrogen from the atmosphere and deposits it into the earth through its root nodules. It literally manufactures its own fertilizer and shares it with every plant nearby. But it's also a protein source. One mature shrub produces several pounds of seeds every year that taste remarkably like lentils or chickpeas. They contain up to 36% protein. In a world where meat is a luxury, a hedgerow of 10 of these shrubs becomes a permanent, self-fertilizing protein factory. It tolerates temperatures down to 40 degrees C, survives extreme drought, and can live for 50 to 100 years. You can eat the seeds, grind them into flour, or feed the foliage to your livestock. It is the ultimate no-input crop. Number 9. Sea Kale, Crème maritima. The multi-harvest perennial. In a survival scenario, you need bang for your buck. You want one plant that does the work of 3. Sea kale is a coastal European survivor that has been feeding people for centuries, yet it is almost entirely ignored in modern North America. What makes sea kale a genius crop is its versatility. In early spring, when your body is desperate for fresh minerals, the young shoots emerge. If you cover them with a bucket to blanch them, they taste exactly like premium asparagus. As the season progresses, the large, waxy leaves can be harvested like kale or cabbage. Later in the spring, the plant produces flower buds that look and taste like broccoli. You get 3 distinct vegetable harvests from a single plant that lives for 15 years. It thrives in poor, sandy or rocky soil where a tomato would wither and die. It actually hates rich soil. It prefers to be left alone in a neglected corner of your property. Number 8. Jerusalem artichoke, Helianthus tuberosus. The perennial potato. If you want to survive, you need calories. Greens are great for vitamins, but starch keeps you alive. Standard potatoes are high maintenance. They need hilling, they are prone to blight, and you have to save and replant tubers every year. Enter the Jerusalem artichoke, or sunchoke. This is a native North American sunflower that produces massive clusters of edible tubers underground. One tuber planted in the spring will yield 5 to 10 pounds of food by autumn. The survival advantage here is the storage. You don't need a root cellar. Sunchokes store themselves in the frozen ground all winter long. You simply go outside with a shovel and dig up fresh potatoes as you need them, even through the snow. They are nearly impossible to kill. In fact, your biggest problem won't be growing them. It will be stopping them from taking over your entire yard. That is exactly the kind of problem you want in a famine. Number 7. Asparagus, Asparagus officinalis. The early spring nutritive insurance. Many people view asparagus as a luxury item. In a survival context, it is a critical nutrient delivery system. Asparagus is one of the very first plants to wake up in the spring, often weeks before you can even think about putting annual seeds in the ground. After a long winter of eating stored grains and dried meat, your body will be depleted of vitamin K, folate, and vitamin C. Asparagus delivers these in abundance right when you need them most. A well-tended bed of asparagus requires almost no work once established. You mulch it once a year with compost or straw, and it rewards you with 20 to 30 years of harvests. It is the ultimate set-it-and-forget-it vegetable. You plant it once, and your grandchildren will still be eating from that same patch. Number 6. Rhubarb, Rheum rhubarbarum. The indestructible mulch machine. Rhubarb is famous for pies, but its true survival value lies in its sheer toughness and its secondary uses. It is a cold climate warrior thriving in Zone 3 winters that would kill almost any other perennial. Rhubarb provides massive amounts of vitamin-rich stalks, but look at the leaves. While the leaves are toxic to eat due to oxalic acid, they are enormous, often 2 feet wide. In a world without plastic weed barriers or store-bought mulch, these leaves are gold. You chop them off and lay them around your other plants. They suppress weeds, retain moisture, and as they break down, they return organic matter to the soil. Rhubarb is a plant that feeds you and then acts as a biological tool to help the rest of your garden thrive. Number 5. Chives, Allium sconoprasum. The morale and medicine herb. In a long-term collapse, people often forget about flavour. But if you are forced to eat a monotonous diet of plain beans and potatoes for months on end, you will experience appetite fatigue. People can actually starve even when food is available because they simply lose the will to eat the same bland mush. Chives provide a permanent, year-round source of onion and garlic flavour. They are the smallest plant on this list, but they have a massive impact on morale. Furthermore, alliums like chives are packed with sulfur compounds and antioxidants that support the immune system. When medical care is unavailable, these culinary plants become your first line of defense against illness. They grow in a clump, spread slowly, and require zero effort to maintain. Number 4. Perennial kale, Brassica oleracea ramosa. The infinite green. Standard kale is a biennial, meaning it lives for 2 years and then dies. But tree collards and perennial kale are different. These are woody, shrub-like plants that can live for a decade. Instead of starting from seeds every year, you just take a cutting, stick it in the dirt, and a new plant grows. In many climates, you can harvest these leaves 365 days a year. While everyone else is waiting for their lettuce seeds to germinate in May, you are already harvesting armloads of nutrient-dense greens in March. It is a permanent source of vitamin A and calcium that never requires a seed packet. Number 3. Good King Henry, Blidum bonus henricus. The poor man's spinach. Spinach is a notoriously difficult crop. It hates the heat, it bolts at the first sign of summer, and it requires constant watering. Good King Henry is the perennial solution. Known as Lincolnshire spinach, it has been a staple in Europe since the Middle Ages. Unlike annual spinach, Good King Henry produces edible, succulent leaves from early spring through the heat of August without ever quitting. It is incredibly cold-hardy and grows well in partial shade, perfect for the understory of your food forest. It provides iron and minerals year after year, and once it's in your soil, it stays there for a decade. Number 2. Egyptian walking onions, Limex proliferum. The onion that replants itself. This is perhaps the most fascinating plant on the list. Most onions require you to harvest the bulb, meaning the plant is gone. Egyptian walking onions are different. Instead of a flower head, they grow a cluster of top sets, tiny baby onions, at the top of the stalk. When these top sets get heavy, the stalk bends over and touches the ground. The baby onions then take root and start growing. The plant literally walks across your garden, propagating itself forever. You can eat the green stalks like scallions or harvest the mini onions like shallots. You will never have to buy an onion again. It is a closed-loop food system in a single plant. Number 1. American groundnut, Apios americana. The undiscovered protein king. This is the most underrated survival crop in existence. The American groundnut is a native North American vine that was a primary food source for indigenous peoples and early pilgrims, yet it is almost unknown today. It produces strings of tubers underground that are 17% protein, 3 times the protein of a potato. It is a nitrogen-fixing legume, so it improves the soil while it grows. It produces beautiful, fragrant flowers and can be grown up a trellis or a fence to save space. Like the sunchoke, the tubers stay perfectly preserved in the ground through the winter. It provides a permanent, high-protein, high-starch food source that is native to our land and adapted to our pests. If you could only plant one thing to prepare for a decade of instability, this is it. It is calories, protein, and fertilizer all in one vine. The reality check. The clock is ticking. Here is the hard truth. Perennials take time. You cannot plant an asparagus crown or a groundnut tuber today and expect a full harvest tomorrow. These plants need 2 to 3 years to establish their root systems before they can truly support you. If you wait until the grocery store shelves are empty, if you wait until the collapse is on the evening news, you are already too late. You cannot rush a food forest. The time to build your permanent infrastructure is while the sun is still shining and the nurseries are still shipping. The difference between a survivor and a victim is the ability to look at a seed today and see a forest 10 years from now. Most people will keep planting their tomatoes and praying for a good season. But you? You'll be harvesting your perennials while the rest of the world is waiting for a spring that might not come. Which of these will be the cornerstone of your survival garden? Let me know in the comments. And if you're serious about building a life that lasts, hit subscribe. We don't just react to the world, we build the systems that survive it.